Alrighty, so there's been some propaganda going on amongst the YouTube spaces I've been seeing. The Lucas Tracy's, the Bedtime MMAs, you know how it goes. People have been posting, people have been ranting, and people are upset with the fight cards. However, alright, as I wait for games to come out, as I wait for, some of the new era of games to come out, I sit here as a UFC fan and I look at some of these cards and I'm thinking to myself, these aren't that bad, so I'm gonna go through in this video a couple fight cards, mainly UFC 319, and kind of talk about early predictions, early thoughts, and why these cards actually aren't that bad. Listen, okay, I'm not out here saying we've got UFC 300 tier, alright, fight cards in terms of name value and everything, right? But these cards aren't that bad, Like, people forget, man, Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis was a terrible fucking fight card. I'm pretty sure the co-main was Nunes. And then the rest of them were a bunch of fucking Canadian bums, alright? And yeah, hey, listen, alright? I'm Canadian, I get the pass, alright? I get to talk shit about my fellow Canadians. Charles Jourdain, what are we doing, brother? Let's stop pulling out of fights. Let's get in there and fucking spread the baseness of the new era of Canadian fighters. But that's a topic for a different day. However, I want to talk about 319 here, alright? I saw a few of the names, and typically I like to do my breakdowns pretty much blind, and I'll probably forget most of the names by the time 319 comes around in August 16th. A couple months away, it is what it is. But this card ain't that bad. I don't know what people are expecting with these cards. Like, people are expecting, I think it's just the hype around a John Jones Aspinall. That should happen, okay? We all know John Jones is going to get slept into, okay? We all know it. We can see the future, okay, but eventually that fight needs to be made. There's the idea of fights being made, like Ilya Islam, great fucking fight, biggest fight they could make, but Islam's a little bitch and he wants to run away, go up to 170, alright? That's not Ilya's fault, that's not it is kind of the UFC fault, but it's like, Islam kind of deserves to move up, He's fought all the featherweights he could at lightweight, alright, guys? So he's got to move up now, but, John Jones, Aspinall, obviously that's there. Pereira, Big Unk 2. That's going to be Abu Dhabi. I actually don't know where this fight card is. This might actually be Abu Dhabi. I don't... no, it's live from Chicago. Alright, yeah, I don't know what the Abu Dhabi card's looking like, but we all know the Unk Alive Pereira rematch. That's being saved for Abu Dhabi. Now, with that being said, let's go into 316, why I think it's actually not that bad. And why I think people are kind of blowing... Listen, alright? This year's been pretty bad for fight cards, alright? Buckley kind of screwed the pooch, alright? No excuses there. Sean O'Malley, what are we doing, brother? Getting subbed by Marab in Big 2025? You know what I mean? But, we did have some great stuff early on. We had, 315, we had JDM bringing violence back, boys. That's not bad, right, guys? That's not bad. Volk getting his belt back, even though it wasn't like a crazy fight or anything. It was, it's a good showcase of the old dogs. You know what I mean? And, we obviously had 313, which was... Oh shit, that wasn't a... we can forget about that one. We had 312 guys. Alright, okay, that wasn't... You know what I mean? We had... Hey, Islam Moicano, 1 day notice. Could have been in a new era of lightweight, but obviously Islam cheated for that one. Yeah, this year kind of has been dog water. But, yeah. 319 actually ain't that bad in hindsight, Like, Hanato Moicano, Islam. Volkanovski, Lopez, on paper was set to be a banger. Alright, Lopez was about to get a knockout. Couldn't get the knockout. We have Bilal Muhammad, JDM. Actually an entertaining Bilal fight, but that's rare. You know what I mean? Like, Marab, main event. You know what I mean? Like, yes, this year hasn't been great, but, like, 319 might genuinely be the best card out of all of them. You know, this one's pretty good. 317, we're cooking. You know, Ilia Topuria, Charles Oliveira. I think we're gonna see a lot of what Ilia's game is at lightweight. People forget, man. Ilia's last showing at lightweight, he got dropped a bunch by Jai Herbert. Almost finished by an unranked bum in lightweight, okay? So it's going to be a little interesting to see how he deals with, you know, an actual former champ, you know, Du Bronx, you know? And Oliveira's not that old. I think he's 34, 35. He's not that old, you know? People forget, man. Volkanovski, he took on Lopez pretty well. And I've been saying Lopez was the style to beat Ilia, but... You know, I think this fight will be a lot more entertaining than people realize, or it'll be a lot like if Oliveira pulls off the upset by turning into Charles Nurmagomedov Oliveira. It could be interesting just to see another upset, as we've seen, you know, the Kamaru Usmans, all right, get the upset, but like 317 ain't that bad. It's no UFC 300. I haven't been around, you know, for decades, all right? I've been watching UFC consistently for a little over 3 years. Actually approaching 4 years. So, yeah, one could make the argument, you know, maybe UFC fucking, you know, what was the McGregor Khabib one? Was it like 252, some shit like that? Whatever, like, we have no McGregor or Khabib anymore, you know? Those don't exist, right? We have a wife beater in John Jones who doesn't want to fight a #1 contender, who owns the interim belt. All right, what do you expect the UFC to do? All right, other than make him do his job. All right, guys, like come on now. But yeah, it is just like everyone's. You know, the divisions are a little weird now. You know, there's no more Silvas where they just get like 11 title defenses. No more Demetrius Johnsons where they're just fucking defending their belt. No one can touch it. You know, we're not in that era yet. You know, Pantoja could be it, but we gotta, you know, 2025 is kind of like a year where everyone needs to build. You know, there's not a lot of names. We just gotta get the names built. Like JDM, no one really fucking knew him, but now that he's the champion, he has potential to become the GOAT. He beats Islam, he beats Kamaru Usman, he beats fucking, somebody else, like an actual contender, like Ian Gary or something, you know? Like, if he beats these names, like, you know, he's not that far off welterweight GOAT, alright? Kamaru Usman beat fucking Colby and Jorge Masvidal. Who the fuck? Half of those aren't even in the fucking UFC anymore, you know what I mean? You know, underrated Strickland win at welterweight, to be fair, but... Yeah, you know, middleweight champ is DDP. He can become the middleweight GOAT, you know what I mean? He's young, king of Africa. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here with 319. Alright, 319 is looking to be an actual pretty good fucking fight card. Now, typically when a card looks good, one of these fights falls out. Don't know which one it is. But, you know, Jessica Andrade, we don't care. But Chase Hooper, Hernandez, no idea why Chase Hooper's fighting bums on the winning streak he's on. But, you know, we're going to see a Chase Hooper finish, guys. You know, that's interesting. Tim Elliott versus Kaya Sakura. Tim Elliott probably gets finished, you know, let's just be honest here. Or we see Kyle Sakura get subbed. You know, so it's kind of an interesting one. You know, this is one for the old heads, I'd say. And then you have, you know, Brian Battle, next welterweight GOAT, just saying, hey, book it, even though he's fighting at middleweight, okay, guys? You know, Brian Battle stocks are going to be rising, let me tell you, all right? We'll be in the Brian Battle era soon enough. But, you know, Brian Battle, Nursultan Ruziboev, this is probably one of the biggest fights you can make in middleweight, I'll be honest. Middleweight's a dead shallow division. And even though Brian Battle made it to welterweight, I think he's figured that, like, if he wants to be active, middleweight is probably the go-to. And middleweights are shit. Like, welterweight is kind of a steep division. Middleweights are dog water. You know, this guy's going to be fighting fucking... Like... I think Brian Battle's got a chance against Kopylov. I think he beats Paulo Costa. You know? I think he beats, you know, Brendan Allen. I think Brian Battle could beat that. You know, Marvin Vettori, that's a free ranking spot right there. Anthony Hernandez, maybe not, but, you know. You know, Kyle Brahalio. Maybe we see another fraud checking of the Fighting Nerds by the GOAT, Brian Battle. But yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm a Brian Battle fan. Obviously, I'm biased for this card because a lot of fighters I love are fighting on this card. Actually, I think Literally, like, 3 out of my top 5 favorite fighters are fighting on this card. Bryan Battle, King Green, and Edson Barbosa. Oh, take my money. Even though I totally pay for every fight card legally, if you catch my drift. Hey, as they say, look to the east, boys. Alright, that's all I'm saying. Anyways, yeah. Anyways, Bryan Battle versus Nursultan Ruzabov. I'm really interested in. I think Ruzabov's a little overrated. I think Bryan Battle's a little underrated. Okay, guys? Even though he's being a little, you know, propped up as the next big thing. Hey, he is the next big thing, okay? Don't care about a woman's fight. King Green versus Diego Ferreira. This is a fight where King Green could, like, do something. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I've been advocating for Bobby Green to get retired. Okay, I don't want to see his brain be mush in the next 2 years because he's been KO'd 5 times in a row. And in between those 5 times in a row, he gets a fluke like 1-2 down the pipe and just sleeps like a Grant Dawson. You know what I mean? Like, I love King Green. I love the way he fights. I love his personality. Don't like the name change. Okay, Bobby. You know, I think he said he's going back to Bobby because he was on a skid because he lost. Constantly talks about retiring, little Dustin Poirier type energy, but you know, I'll be rooting for King Green. Diego Ferreira is also, holy shit, he's older than Bobby Green. Hey, Bobby Green title run starts now, boys. You know, but this is an interesting one. As much as we want to say Bobby Green's brain is mush, I know it was, I almost said 10 memes, Jim Miller, alright? Even though it was Jim Miller, he still went to fucking war with Jim Miller on UFC 300. You know? That was a sick fight. This could be that. Maybe. But I think Diego Ferreira is probably going to get a sub. Probably going to get a sub. But it could be interesting. We could see something happen here. And then you have Edson Barbosa, Drakkar Klose at lightweight. So Edson's going to be, you know, a little bit more filled in. Hopefully his brain's not bleeding. And listen, this is like an if type of card. You know, if Bobby Green doesn't get chinned within 10 seconds, gonna be a good fight. If Edson Barbosa doesn't show up with brain bleed, as he showed up for the Rowan Murphy, which I believe is his last performance, then this could be a good fight. This could be a Edson Barbosa type finish where he's doing a spinning back kick, and you know, commentary's like, oh, you know, you better watch out for this, or that's how you get knocked out. You know, the fucking highlight from Joe Rogan, fucking good old Joe Rogan. But yeah, Edson Barbosa, Drakkar Klose. This has like a finish written all over it. Drakkar Klose typically will fight for a finish. He got his ass whooped by, I want to say Carlos. No, who was it? Joel Alvarez. I'm pretty sure Joel Alvarez whooped Drakkar Klose. So Edson could do the same thing, and like a cooler sort of, well, not cooler, but like in a cool fashion, like Edson Barbosa way. I love Edson Barbosa. He's got a sick style. You know, this little Muay Thai bobbing, weaving, fucking spinning wheel kick out of nowhere type shit. As his fight against Sadiq Youssef is one of my favorite to watch. Then we have good old GM3 versus McCall. McCall Olenjachuk in the win column. Alright, this guy's probably going to knock out GM3, let's be honest, but this could be a sick finish, you know? We don't get a lot of those this year, alright? Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. It's kind of a cool matchup. Don't know why the fuck it's being made. Why isn't Jared like number 3 in middleweight? Where is Jared? Where is good old Jared Cannonier? Holy shit, he's number... I guess he did lose, right? He did lose to Kyle Bahalio, and he did get slept by Amalov. Those did... Well, he didn't get slept. It was like an early stoppage type shit, but... That could be interesting, now that I'm thinking about it. Jared Cannonier, MVP. MVP's not even fucking... Wait, is he? He's not even ranked at middleweight. What the fuck? I guess it makes sense. He did beat that bum fucking... well, what was his name? Fuck. Ginger, One-Eyed Pirate, Shara Bullet, that was his name. He did whoop Shara Bullet, as I predicted. Stay tuned for my predictions every single fight card. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, shameless plug over. But, MVP did get it done, as I predicted, and this fight's at least interesting. But, like, I don't like MVP at middleweight. He does look like a fat fuck, you know? Skull of Namsakwe looking head ass, alright? I don't like that. I don't like Megamind at middleweight. I like him at welterweight. I think he looks more filled in at, like, welterweight. He's built for welterweight. He is long as fuck. But this could be interesting. You know, Jared Cannonier, you know, people forget, man, Jared Cannonier still got that dog in him. All right, at the ripe old age of 41. You know, his robbery win over Sean Strickland just ages better as time goes on. But, yeah, this fight's at least interesting. This is one of those, like, I think someone's going to get, like, crazy finished. I get that MVP has the style where it looks interesting, and it's actually not that interesting, as the gurus have said, but I do think MVP style is still fun to watch. And then we have the main event being Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev, and I think everyone knows it's DDP by headbutt KO, round 2. Knocks him down, then he omoplatas Khamzat Chimaev right in front of his coach, just to prove, you know, and then he calls out Darren Till for being a fat fuck. I think that's the game plan. That's the blueprint for DDP. However, this fight's sick, man. Even if Khamzat Chimaev wins, he probably wins by finish, let's be real. People forget, man, the only decision that Dricus du Plessis has ever made it to, the only scorecards, hey, I believe, right? I think he's finished everyone except for, am I right in saying that? How many decisions he's got? He's got 3 decisions, okay? So maybe I was a little wrong. You know, Brad Tavares is just another level of toughness, all right? He has plot armor, but people forget, man, the only decisions he goes to are with people like fucking Sean Strickland. So it's literally, this has, like, finish written all over it. It might be a decision performance from Dricus du Plessis, but, you know, if Khamzat Chimaev doesn't pull out, which is, like, if you had odds on who's pulling out, everyone would be, like, you know, plus 500, plus 1,000. Khamzat Chimaev's probably minus 250, you know, of if he's going to pull out this fight or not. But Dricus du Plessis, Khamzat Chimaev is a very interesting fight. I think it's being slept on. I think a lot of people are just looking at this and being like, the rest of that card dog shit. Everyone's washed. Everyone's an old dog. That's what that's how the UFC is right now, because they need to build names for the new guys. The Brian Battles. You know, the McCall Olenjaychuks. You know, even though McCall's been around for fucking ever. Right? But that's kind of what the UFC is right now. We're trying to mow out the old heads that just don't have it anymore. You know, Bobby Green gets chinned in the first round, you know what I mean? Type shit, right? And we're trying to make room for young bloods to come in and start showcasing young blood type Joshua Van type energy, if you get my drift, all right? So I think that's where we're at with the UFC. Is it one of the weakest years of all time for UFC? Possibly. If you want to compare the level of fighters, though, I do think we're still looking at another level. You know, Brian Battle. Can we just be honest? Brian Battle whoops every middleweight champion before Israel Adesanya. Can we be real? Brian Battle smokes Robert Whittaker. Okay, I'm saying it, bro. I'm saying it. Smokes Robert Whittaker. He's washed, man. He is. Okay? Even though I know he finished the unranked guy, what was his name? Ikram Aliskerov, I want to say? Some shit like that. Smoked his ass. Ikram's a bum anyways. But regardless, you know, Brian Battle, he probably would whoop Yoel Romero, you know? He probably would whoop Luke Rockhold type shit. You know what I mean? Same with Rusev, to be honest with you. So I just think we're in an era where the old heads need to battle it out and fight the young bloods. And we need to get rid of them. And then we'll have the new age fighters for like 5 to 10 years. And then we'll go back to like, you know, like we need the new Dustin Poiriers to come in. We need the new Max Holloways to come in. I get it, Max Holloway's not that old. But I mean like a Max Holloway's 25, 26, you know? Like that's where I think... Not Smotherman. What was his name? Who just fought? What was his name? Malcolm Wellmaker. Like the Malcolm Wellmakers, you know? We need to find those guys right now. So it is a little bit dead for the UFC. I think 319's looking pretty fucking good. It might be the best card of the year. You know, fingers crossed, knock on wood, nobody pulls out. But I do think the cards are being shit on a little too much, you know? However, if I'm in the room with Dana White, and if you're in the room with the matchmakers or wherever the fuck it is, these cards are dog shit, alright? We need Aspinall, we need John Jones, we need Ilya versus Islam. We need Pantoja Merab. Book that shit right now. However, I don't think these cards are actually that bad. Maybe I'm just a UFC addict. Maybe I'm just like too lost in the sauce, but that's my personal, 2 cents in it. So I just wanted to get it out there. It's been a pretty dead week, not really much going on, but I just wanted to get my thoughts and opinions on these cards coming up. Maybe let me know what your thoughts are. These cards overrated? Are they being underrated? Comment down below. But if you made it all the way, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I want to thank you for watching. And as always, I hope you have a good day.